Hey y'all, I'm Morgan Young, and this is Long Story Shorts, where we are exploring the headlines that are taking up space in your news feeds. And you don't even have to swipe. We're going to take care of it for you. In this episode, we are talking all things school vouchers, getting into the details of free food, and yes, the return of Double Dutch. But first, we're going to start with the stories that we know are making waves in your community.
And I just want to let them know what the city stands right now. We are not on board with this thing here.
ICE cannot be allowed to secretly haul in migrants like cattle into Hutchins.
I don't want my kids having to go to school and having to deal with this in our city. And I know none of the residents, nobody who want to deal with this.
We're gonna get an ICE detention center before we get a grocery store in Hutchins? Are you kidding me?
Literally 9 o'clock on February 4th, and they'll need an ID. If there's, special needs, they'll need that identification, that what we call in public schools, they call an IEP, but to show us that they have to have proof of that, proof of citizenship. And then one of the things we need, because we don't have an income tax in the state of Texas, which I don't want, I voted to make sure we don't have that income tax, we will need your tax returns because of the criteria involved that the legislature adopted for prioritizing the financial resources.
So they'll have to upload their 1040 or whatever it is?
Correct.
Just to show how much they make and...
Yes, because there is criteria there. What we want to do is prioritize low income and those with special needs. And so those documents that prove that will need to be available along with an ID to make sure you're a U.S. citizen, resident of Texas.
A booth set up this week at Wiley East High School is drawing a lot of attention. It was organized by the Muslim Students Association and featured materials from a group called Why Islam. On a table was the Quran, stations for henna, and headscarves to try on. Local young Republicans are really upset. They say parents send their kids to school for education, not indoctrination. The Council on American Islamic Relations say the booth was meant to be informational, not to convert anyone. They said nobody was pressured to take anything. The school district admits proper procedures weren't followed. In a letter to families, officials called it, quote, a procedural breakdown, saying the group didn't have approval to hand out materials and guest speakers may only speak to student clubs in a classroom where everyone has signed parent permission slips. CARE says the Why Islam group has been to other schools. This is no different, they say, than Christian groups hosting informational tables on campus. The chairman for high school Republicans say parents have a right to know if these materials are presented to their children. The district says it's taking full responsibility and remains committed to protecting every student.
In parts of Rowlett, neighbors say the problem hits you before you ever see it.
It's like the worst rotten eggs you've ever smelled. It's not fun.
Allison Haupt lives near Liberty Grove Road.
We all know the hot spots or the stinky spots. And there's certain intersections in town, and those intersections coincide with where the lift stations are.
The city says most complaints are coming from major corridors like Liberty Grove, where sewer lift stations move wastewater across town. This sewer manhole is located in one of the hot spots neighbors have been telling us about on 66 and Rowlett Road. They say that the smell is off and on. This is definitely an off day, but when the wind hits your nose just right, you get a whiff of it. So what's causing the smell? The city says when wastewater sits too long, it produces a gas called hydrogen sulfide.
We acknowledge that there is an odor concern, but there is not a safety concern.
The city says testing has not found dangerous levels of that gas in the air, but leaders admit the odor is a real nuisance. The response, a citywide odor abatement program using monitoring, chemical treatment, and aeration to reduce the conditions that create the smell.
The goal is if the hydrogen sulfide concentrations are at bay, then obviously the odor should be at bay too. Will there be occasional peaks? I'm sure there will be, but hopefully it will not be to this extent.
For neighbors dealing with it day to day, relief can't come soon enough.
I think that's the first step, admitting we have a problem, but we're waiting on follow through. Ultimately, that's what we need. We need to see action taken.
A community meeting is set for February 12th at City Hall. Residents can report bad odors to the city now. In Rowlett, I'm Luke Clary.
I just wrapped up an interview with State Senator-elect Taylor Ramette. Now, even if you pay very little attention to politics, you might have seen him on your social media feed over the last couple of days, because his upset victory in a special election is getting national attention. Ramette is a Democrat. He won in a real Republican stronghold, the northern suburbs of Tarrant County. We're talking Southlake, Keller, North Richland Hills. President Donald Trump won that same district by 17 points just 15 months ago.
What do you think your victory this weekend means when we start looking ahead for your party in the midterms?
Well, I think it's as simple as this. If you can prioritize doing the work of going out there and meeting voters where they're at and focusing on the working folks that make this state and this country great, I think that's a winning recipe. We didn't focus on party, we focused on issues and people. This is people over party type of campaigning.
One Republican after another calling this a wake-up call. They do say special elections are not always indications of what's to come. Democrats, however, see this as reason for hope going into the midterms. Ramette's victory means something. It's just impossible at this point to know exactly what.
Here at HEB, no matter what part of the state you're in, you're getting the hospitality from the time you come in to the time you come out. There's a lot of hype with it, but it's real. The grand opening is at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning here in HEB at the Forney location. BM number 1. We got some big fans behind me as well that are here, that have been here for several hours.
10:30. Yeah.
Got here real early. They take care of us for several hours leading up to the actual celebrations.
It's the closest one to where I live right now.
Now, they haven't really discussed on what we're going to be getting when it comes to gifts and being here for a while and certain freebies. But when I was at the Rockwell location, the person that was first ended up getting a big basket full of all kinds of different goodies and stuff. So I'm assuming that's probably what I'm going to end up getting here, which I'm stoked for that.
It is important to be part of the HEB opening and be part of it, because it was part of me growing up since I was little. HEB is feels like home. I even have an order from coworkers. Bring me this, bring me that.
It's going to be crazy.
Game plan is get in and get out so I can get back to work.
They just melt in your mouth. I'm going to run in here and I'm going to grab those tortillas. I tell you, within 30 seconds, even though I'm number 1, within 30 seconds, they're all going to be gone. So let's go.
It's chaotic, but it's exciting.
It's a frenzy 2 years in the making. Texas schools finding out who they'll play and where they'll land. Football coaches packed the Birdville Fine Arts Complex, scrambling to build schedules before the dust even settles.
You're never ready for what's going to show up on the board. I'm probably more confused right now than I was when I came here.
This is the biennial UIL realignment, reshaping every Texas public high school sport from basketball to volleyball and, of course, football.
I tossed and turned last night because I'm not used to it, but it's going to be very different for us.
DeSoto head coach Claude Mathis is leading a program used to life at the top into unfamiliar territory. DeSoto has long been a powerhouse in 6A football, the reigning champions after all. But the next time the Eagles take the field here, they will play as a 5A team, in line with declining enrollment numbers. Other teams moving the other direction, 5A Aledo to 6A, 4A Salina to 5A. And Frisco Wakeland makes history, the first Frisco ISD school to reach 6A.
You're always a little apprehensive about moving up to the highest level that the state has to offer, but at the same time, there's a little bit of excitement there.
New districts.
Good teams in every district. It's going to be a challenge.
New challenges.
You don't want it easy. You don't want it easy. Let's play the best. Let's go get it.
But for everyone, the countdown to Friday Night Lights starts now. In North Richland Hills, I'm Luke Clary.
Hey everyone, it's a big day in high school sports here in the state of Texas. It's the 2026 UIL Biennial Reclassification and Realignment. That is a very long and complicated way of saying that high schools across the state find out which districts they will be in for the next 2 years. Now the process really got going in December when we found out the cutoff numbers for the different classifications, 6A, 5A, 4A, etc. And that was a really big piece of the puzzle. But these are those fine pieces of the puzzle now that we get to see in terms of where all these schools will land and in which districts. And these are for different sports, football, volleyball, basketball, and the other sports as well. I do want to highlight a few schools for you. We'll start with DeSoto because for the first time in 42 years, they will not play in the state's highest classification. For so many years, they had decided to play up, but this year they go by the numbers, and so they've landed in District 8-5A Division 1. Cedar Hill actually comes with them into this district. And there's also Lancaster in this district as well as a couple of the Mansfield schools. So new home for DeSoto, and as the reigning state champion, they're certainly going to be a favorite to try and win that division and go a long way in 5A Division 1. Another school to hit, Aledo. They're going to be making history and making their debut in 6A. There was a lot of talk about where they would land. Could they end up with a Crowley and North Crowley in a new district that would be made in 6A? That's not how it shakes out for them, though. They actually land in 3-6A with a lot of the Arlington schools. And when you think about what could have been for Aledo, this certainly feels like a really good place for them to thrive. And they will be considered, as one of the front runners in that district. And we'll see how they do overall in 6A. Finally, Frisco-Wakeland, they're making history, and they'll become the first Frisco high school to ever play in the state's highest classification. There's been some pushback from parents because it's not exactly the model that they put together in Frisco. Frisco has 12 high schools, the thought being keep the enrollment numbers low so they wouldn't have to play in the state's highest classification. But it didn't work out that way for Wakeland this year. They'll be in District 5-6A, along with Denton Guyer, Denton Braswell, and some Louisville and Flower Mound schools. They avoided having to play the likes of Allen, a school which has more than double the enrollment of Wakeland. So interesting, not as bad perhaps as it could have been in terms of playing some of the other schools. So we'll see how it shakes out for those Wakeland Wolverines. And that's a look at just a few of the storylines from this year's realignment, but we've got plenty more for you. We did an hour-long special on WFAA Plus. You can go to Plus, check it out. Yours truly, along with Jonah Javad and Mike Leslie, we take you through different districts. We have interviews with coaches, take you through the teams, and get you set for high school football. Listen, it's 6 months away, but you can never not talk about high school football here in the great state of Texas. It is in our DNA. Here's hoping you enjoy it. You check that out on WFAA Plus. You download that for free on your smart TV and check it out.
All right, congratulations. You made it through the 2 darkest months of winter, the 2 darkest months of the year. Now we're gaining daylight a little faster each day, and the sun is getting higher in the sky. Love this time of year. So if you think back 1 month ago where you were at the beginning of January, sunsets were closer to 5:30, and that's getting dark pretty early. Now they're after 6 o'clock, and by the end of the month, we'll gain another 50 minutes of daylight, just given our position, our latitudinal position here in North Texas. Another thing to keep in mind is the sun is getting higher in the sky because the northern hemisphere is moving less from that tilted away winter position to the vernal equinox position. So the UV index is going to be higher each day. Nothing to do with temperature, just proximity to sun. Finally, the good news, the next 2 weeks, your extended forecast, 60s and now 70s showing up. I don't want to jinx anything, but it's starting to feel and look a little bit more like spring.
Parents, I want to flag this story for you. 2 siblings out of Florida rescued after they say a 19-year-old they met playing Roblox drove from Nebraska to Florida to kidnap them. Now, I am not a sky is falling, be aware of the boogeyman type of guy, but the risks from social media access, online gaming access for our kids cannot be overstated, whether it is the well-documented risks of mental health issues, cyberbullying, etc. on social media, or who they chat with on gaming platforms. I want this to serve as a wake-up call and a warning for parents to know what your kids are doing online, because I can guarantee you the app makers, the game makers are not nearly as concerned about your kids as you are and as they are about their bottom line. We chatted about this topic this morning with ABC News' Victor Oquendo, and I wanted to share his report.
Kara, Mark, the details here are troubling. These girls allegedly kidnapped by a man that they met online. The sheriff saying they prevented something disastrous. These girls, sisters, ages 12 and 15, met the 19-year-old man on Roblox before moving communication over to Snapchat, where he allegedly spoke to them for months. Families saying they noticed some weird things happening before the kidnapping, like gifts showing up to the house. Well, according to police, the suspect traveled more than 1,500 miles, driving 23 hours straight from Omaha, Nebraska to Indiantown, Florida, telling the girls to meet him. They disappeared around 5 p.m. Saturday. Investigators finding their conversations with the suspect on one of the girls' phones, along with a detailed plan to take them to Nebraska. A picture of the suspect taken in a gas station linked him to a dark Honda CRV, and Georgia State Police located that car and the girls inside. That suspect was arrested, charged with 2 counts of kidnapping. Mark, Kara?
Yeah, Victor, I know that parent safety groups have said for a long time that Roblox and other companies like it are not doing enough to protect kids on their platforms. How are they responding this morning?
So Roblox released a statement saying in part that they are investigating this deeply troubling incident and they'll fully cooperate with law enforcement, adding that they have robust safety policies and they're going to keep working on this. I'll send it back to you guys.
Oh, we're glad they're safe. Thank you so much.
Well, we all know that social media is a great tool for staying connected, but it can pose a risk for your kids. Mark Istook takes a look at a few stories that all families should be paying attention to.
Over the course of the first month, it looks like 4.7 million accounts have been taken down by social media platforms.
Yeah, the headlines are impressive. Just last month, Australia effectively banned social media accounts for kids under the age of 16, and already a huge impact. The debate over that ban has been fierce, pitting parents and child safety advocates against big tech and privacy groups. Dane Whitbeck is the CEO of Pinwheel. It's a smartphone designed to be safe for kids. And he says, ultimately in Australia, the sheer volume of research highlighting potential risks of social media access on kids won out, from inappropriate content to cyberbullying to worries over mental health.
Of course, the government feels that there's a public health issue here that they can address and help to protect children. And so they're taking that step in Australia. And so far, it seems like the platforms are more capable of deleting and identifying some of these accounts than maybe they would like to let on.
Now, that last part might be the big sticking point here in the U.S., the reason that popular bipartisan efforts like KOSA, the Online Safety Act, haven't passed. Big tech companies have spent millions arguing against efforts to legislate their platforms. And then there's the debate over responsibility from those who say it should be a parent's job to police what their kids do online.
Why would we set this up as an either or? Because I think the smoking industry is a great example. I think alcohol is a great example. These products are things that adults enjoy and they have every right to enjoy. They have the freedom to enjoy, but we put age limits on them and we put restrictions on these companies.
Other countries have already said they'll follow Australia's lead. And in the U.S., polls show overwhelming support for these kinds of regulations from voters in both parties. So does that mean we'll soon see social media banned for kids here too? If so, at least one parent is all for it.
I think that's going to be well worth it for the public in the balance of things to protect children.
The big takeaway here, social media companies, app makers, big tech do not have your kids' best interests at heart typically.
No.
So just remember that when you are letting your kids have access, and maybe dial it back if you can.
Yeah, they're the product, right?
All right, we're going to get into some stories that caught our attention, like video you just have to see, and why that LinkedIn account might be looking a little crusty right now.
If you were looking for a new job this year, but you haven't logged into LinkedIn since 2021, you might be invisible to the people trying to hire you. It turns out that old profile not gathering just dust. It's just a huge missed opportunity. I caught up with Robin Story. She's the owner of Storyline Resumes to talk about the one tool she says is critical for job seekers right now. Well, she told me 93% of recruiters use LinkedIn as their first stop to find candidates. But it's not just about having a profile. It's about actually being active on it. Story says even if you are shy about posting your own updates, you need to show up.
LinkedIn rewards its users and they reward them with visibility. So if you are someone who is on LinkedIn and maybe you don't want to post on LinkedIn or you don't want to really engage in that way, the more you engage with other people's posts, if you like things, if you comment on them, if you follow companies, all of those things will increase your visibility.
I always think of it as like you got to give love to get love. And a word of caution from Robin. She says there are a lot of lurkers watching what you say, so be careful with those political posts. She advises keeping your comments polished and professional. Avoid hot button topics, like politics or religion, because you never know which hiring manager might be scrolling through those comments. I thought that was pretty fascinating, that's what they do. They're on there specifically to get the behind the scenes scoop, Art.
They're snooping, they're looking, they're lurking. Yeah.
But get on LinkedIn and get on there active now.
Duly noted.
If you need help with groceries, there's an opportunity to receive free food for you and your family this Thursday, February 5th. Collin College Plano is hosting a drive-through food distribution on Thursday the 5th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. or until food runs out. The event will be held in parking lot 1213. It is the parking lot between the library and Jupiter Road. This event is free, open to the public, and requires no registration. And since it's a drive-through, though, participants must have a vehicle. You must also self-declare family size. No proof of income or residency is necessary. Again, this drive-through food distribution is at Collin College Plano this Thursday, February 5th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's part of the North Texas Food Bank's Community Partner Program and happens once a month during the fall and spring semesters. So if you missed this one, the next one at Collin College is on March 5th.
Check out this little pin that I found on my desk today at WFAA when I arrived at work. It is a red dress, and it signifies Go Red for Women Day, which is Friday, February 6th. Now, the American Heart Association does this every year. They encourage us to wear red for one day out of the year. It's all about supporting women's cardiovascular health. Cardiovascular disease, the #1 killer of women. Nearly 45% of women over the age of 20 are living with some form of it. Those two numbers are absolutely frightening. So, here are some signs and some symptoms to watch for. Now, I know this is only up for a second, so screenshot this or save the video so you can refer to it at any point in time. Let's try to raise awareness. Let's try to save some lives. Let's go red on Friday.
There are so many women who joined our group, who came for the double dutch, but stayed for the sisterhood.
Jack, be quick. We're over 40 and we're trying to stay fit. We're a group of friends who want to stay in shape. Spread the double dutch movement from state to state. When we were younger, we jumped all day. Now we tire faster, but that's okay. It doesn't matter your size or shape. As long as you're trying, then you can play. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gypsy, Gypsy, Rosalie. We're reliving the memories. And people watch this pretty dope because we can still jump some rope. From the suburbs to the city, jumping all through the land with my double dutch team. From the suburbs to the city, jumping all through the land with my double dutch team.
Stop 97 and a 70. What's the reason for that? EMS is on scene. Jeez.
I mean, it's just that took so much away from us.
All right, that's it for Long Story Shorts. We'll be back with another episode on Friday.